Players discuss how to avoid burnout in Love and Deepspace. I'm about to share with you all of the players' tips and tricks and advice on how to avoid this, as well as some of my own personal tips and tricks or advice towards the end of this video. Welcome back, my fellow flowers of Linkon. It has definitely been a hot minute, and what I have noticed, I have seen quite a lot of posts, or rather a lot of players sort of feeling this stagnation or kind of feeling burnout, or reaching that point where they feel like they're not really enjoying Love and Deepspace as much as they used to. So we're going to dive into why that is with this lovely user on Reddit. So a huge shout out to all the Redditors that post their comments and opinions for all of us to take a look and, discuss and all of that. So this is the first part of the post. I will read the second part a bit later. So the first part reads, thinking of quitting and wanting advice. I love this game and I actually waited ages to play it since my phone couldn't sustain it. Finally, I started to play it around spring this year and I loved it. I loved the combat, the story, and obviously the boys. They helped me understand what I was seeking for in relationships as well as how to navigate one. The issue is I'm sort of off about it now. I'm stunted, diamonds are hard to acquire, I'm not having fun and finding myself wanting more of it. MC is what is really disappointing me. I loved our customizable, sassy MC and we barely even get her. She doesn't talk and clearly made with one audience in mind, so I can't even enjoy my girl anymore. The colorism in this game is so blatant in how they handle her, and as an Asian girl who experienced severe colorism in my life and now an adult who has no issues with her skin tone, this game is just reminding me of how some people refuse to look past theirs. I don't want any infantilizing or ignorant comments. If the devs didn't want certain people in their games, then they shouldn't have made it an option in the first place. They go on to say, the voice acting in events is obviously disappointing too. There's lots of other posts already discussing how awful the NPCs sound in the English version or EN version, and I shouldn't need to be switching in and out of languages just to enjoy content, especially when the boys sound great. Then there's the King of Dark Knight situation. It feels like people love this game since now it's something the women audience can enjoy. But it also feels like the fan base is giving the devs too much credit. They aren't listening to us to the point that they're facing a lawsuit. I have no words about how immature it is for a company to behave in such a manner, especially one that relies on the trust of a devoted player base. Anyway, I want to enjoy the game, but I can't and wanted some advice. So as usual, I'll be reading out a few, comments that stood out to me from under this post. This first player says, just take a break. Only play when it actually brings you joy. I take breaks from the game and it is actually fun when I return. It will always be there. I don't see the point in pressuring yourself to continue if it's not fun. I understand wanting to feel that joy again though. Maybe look for something new to get into, like a book, comic show, etc. Another player said, sounds like you already said it yourself. I'm not having fun and I want to enjoy the game but can't. Games are for enjoying or for enjoyment. If you're not getting enjoyment, there's your answer right there. Like everyone has said, take a break. You can always check in later and see if Infold has bothered to fix anything. In the meantime, find something out there that does bring you joy. Good luck out there. Then this player says, I think it's important to remember it's just a game. You owe it as little as it owes you, and I don't mean that as a slight. If any media triggers discomfort in you, you have the right to step away from it until it changes or you feel comfortable interacting with it again. Play something that makes you happy. Games shouldn't make you feel bad like this. I hope you find one that makes you feel like a star again. Another player says, not entirely sure what advice you're looking for, but someone mentioned taking a break, and that is probably the best way to go about it. Step away from the game and see how you feel about it after a week or two. Regarding your concerns, they're all valid reasons to stop playing the game completely. And the reality is, none of those problems will get any better. If things do get better, it won't be anytime soon, or will be extremely slow because big companies take a long time for anything to change. Infold makes a ton of money. Making a game also takes a ton of money. But that's because shareholders always want more money. How games are made, especially mobile games, isn't built on principles of what is best for the player experience, but rather what can we give them that's enough for most of them to stay? Honestly, that last sentence really hits deep because it is actually so true. Like the experience of playing mobile games versus console games is console or PC games is vastly different. And I'm somebody who plays on PC on consoles such as the Nintendo Switch, and mobile games being Love and Deepspace and Infinity Nikki. And if I'm being 100% completely honest with you, I've always find the most enjoyment and fulfillment when I play on either PC, that is on Steam, or when I play a console game on Switch. I don't know, the experience is way more satisfying, and it's even more satisfying if the game I'm playing is from an indie developer, and 99% of the games that I do own are actually from indie developers or indie studios. The player's comment goes on to say, take for example MC's voice acting. For them, it's a lot of work for very little payoff. Plus, if their core pillar is an immersive experience, then they will want as little of MC's voice as possible. Does it make sense? Not really. Does it cut corners to save pennies? Yes. Same with the colorism. It's not a priority. Most Asian countries as a whole hate dark-skinned people. They think that they can afford to lose the few who care. As for the King of Dark Knight, lawsuits take forever, so I'm not holding my breath for those changes. So I guess the best advice I can give is, if you don't care about all this, then keep playing. If these issues really grind your gears though, stop. Your time and enjoyment is the top priority when you decide what games to play, and if you don't find joy in this, it is not worth it. The storytelling is great, the boys are amazing, but take some time to see if there are other romance games or other romance indie games that scratch that itch. If it doesn't, then come back here until you find something better for you. Another comment reads, as everyone is saying, take a break. And I don't know how you personally play the game, but I think it's best consumed slowly. I got the game last year, but I'm still only halfway through the orbit stages I could do and halfway through the story, because I saved the main story for days that I know I have the time, energy, and environment to properly enjoy it. The story will be released slowly over years, so there's no point in rushing through it all. I don't know how normal this is, lol. I'm sure someone more intense could argue that I'm hardly playing the game, but it means I'm not burnt out. Make sure you mix it with other forms of media or games that you like, such as reading books, watching shows, and playing interactive games along with Love and Deepspace. I can't give advice for everything because sometimes Infold refuse to be better/more generous. Only thing I can say is plan and save diamonds well. Colorism is so frustrating and so easily fixed by a company as successful as theirs. Since they don't want to do better, only a bit of advice I can give is, if you feel it may affect your mental health subconsciously, be careful not to drown in discourse that would make you think you're regressing in self-love, when the entire game is supposed to serve as a reminder of the love you deserve. Then this player says, I totally get where you're coming from. I too have been having these thoughts. On the one hand, I like the game and I think it's a good thing for women and especially the CN girlies. Increasing standards for men is important in my opinion. On the other, the company is increasingly behaving immorally towards the players. Do I want to continue supporting the company because I enjoy the game? Or do I stop so I don't have to engage and give money to the company? It is a personal decision I don't think anyone can help us with though. It is a question of what you value more. At this moment, I settled on continuing to play because I think the benefits to women outweigh the moral disillusion with Infold. I don't know if this is helpful to you though. Another player says, this sounds like a burnout. I think taking a break might help. I'm still in my honeymoon phase with Love and Deepspace because I started playing recently. But I've had to give up on other games I loved a lot, just because I didn't feel where they were going, Genshin. And because the game was making me physically nauseous with all the running around, Infinity Nikki, I've since returned to Nikki and only play for the time I feel fine and don't worry about collection all that much. I tried to return to Genshin too, but uninstalled after a couple of weeks because something still felt missing and the game felt barren, especially compared to the absolute cinema that was HSR or Honkai Star Rail 3.4. So if you want, you could take a break and come back after a while and see if you still love the game or not. And finally, last but not the least, this player says, I'm not going to tell you to take a break like everyone else, because I've been told the same and it just feels really condescending and like it brushes away a huge issue within this game. I will tell you that my experience with the game improved severely when I stopped interacting with the fan base on the daily. I left all Discord groups, but number one, and closed my Twitter I had just for Love and Deepspace. I think the fans are the most toxic part of the game, and to be honest, I was seeing a lot of pro shippers bullies, and subtle racism that nobody seems to want to address amongst the players. It felt like I was going insane and nobody was listening to me. And I felt like whenever I spoke out about something, I got jumped by a clique of mean players who pat each other in the back for their ignorance, or I was just ignored or outcasted. So, I'm not going to tell you to stop playing a game that you have spent so much time and money on, but I will tell you to be very careful with the players and spaces you choose to interact with in this game because they can make or break your overall experience. So there you have it, my fellow flowers of Linkon. Everybody had very unique and different pieces of advice that could either help or maybe it might not help somebody. But I do feel like the variety in responses should maybe help you make a sound decision if you are somebody yourself who is probably feeling some burnout or some early signs or early stages of burnout. Hopefully some of these players' tips and tricks or advice helped you. Now, my personal opinions or my personal advice would be number one, do not play the game for one day. If you are starting to feel signs of burnout or you're frustrated or annoyed or angry for whatever reason and you just don't feel like you're in the mood to log in for whatever it might be, whatever the reason might be, just try not logging in for a day. See how it makes you feel. Did it make you feel sad? Did you make you feel better? Or did you find that it was neutral? It didn't affect you in any way. You will come to know about it or how you feel once you personally try this for yourself. Next up, try to figure out what other aspects of Love and Deepspace do you truly enjoy from the game apart from pulling on the banners. What else do you like? Maybe you're somebody who loves to read the main story. You love to read or reread the main story or the anecdotes or the world underneath stories to learn more about the game's lore if you are somebody who is like very story focused, you know what I'm saying? Or maybe you love to replay the Kindle scenes that you already have from the cards you already own. Or maybe you just love to interact with the guys. You love to chit chat. You love the quality time feature. You love the tete-a-tete feature where you get to talk to them about your day, whether you're feeling happy or sad. Maybe you just truly love enjoying these secret times over and over on repeat. You have your favorite sets of secret times and tender moments that you love to have on repeat because it makes you feel calm. It helps you to relax from the hustle and bustle of everyday life. So you always tend to turn to these secret times and tender moments. I totally understand. I'm somebody who loves to do that myself. And or perhaps you really enjoy the battle aspect of the game, which I would argue the battle side of the game makes up for 50% of the gameplay. Like in my opinion, I feel like Love and Deepspace is 50% combat and 50% obviously the story, the visual novel story aspect of the game, right? So maybe you want to try your hand at getting better, a little bit better at Senior Hunter Contest, maybe Abyssal Chaos, the Deep Space Trials, the Unicorns Operations, the open orbit, the fluctuant orbits, if you have if you would like to try doing those things. There's also a mode where you can battle with the different with the different types of myth companions. You can also have a mode where you can refamiliarize or familiarize yourself with all the different types of weapons in the game. You can, even if you have already completed getting the diamond rewards from those aspects of the battle mode of the, using different weapons. If you have forgotten how to use certain weapons, you can always play it again. Maybe you might rekindle your joy in combat if that is something you enjoy. I also think reducing the amount of time you spend on the game if you're starting to feel burnout or if you feel like you are overwhelmed, try to spend only 30 minutes to maximum 45 minutes on the app a day. I mean, granted, if you are a brand new player, you will have a lot more things to do, a lot more achievements to unlock and a lot more things to complete in general and to do. But if you are a veteran player or if you have been playing for 7+ months, a year or more than 1 year now, 1 year, 6 months plus, then you will feel like maybe spending less time in the game and more time investing in other types of hobbies is going to help enrich your overall experience and rekindle your love for the game. And finally, last but not the least, I would highly recommend to engage with social media a lot less. So if you're somebody who is very used to watching other people's pulling videos and whatnot, and if while watching said pulling videos of other players, you feel a unconscious or subconscious pressure that you need to be pulling as well, then I would say try to completely avoid watching these types of videos or consume some other type of content, whether it be fan fiction or something else. Do not watch these types of videos if it triggers you in any way, shape or form. Another thing is try to not engage in fandom discussion or fandom discourse or any sort of negative any sort of negativity about the game, because I know there's a lot of fan wars about whose characters is better than the others, even though there should be no such discussion at all, because everybody is free to love and like a single guy, multiple guys, or all the guys. Okay, it's completely up to each individual's preference. So the online fandom space has become a war zone, so I would avoid it like the plague and completely decide to enjoy the game solo and then see how much better that improves your game. In fact, another player already suggested this in the post that we just read. So try some, or try to, implement one of these tips or one of these pieces of advice a day at a time and see if it impacts your gameplay in any way, shape, or form. What sort of advice do you have for any players that may be showing early signs of burnout or they're already burnt out? I would love to hear all your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below. Until the next time, I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.